It's young, wild and successful. See its sport brand Cupra. It was only launched as an independent brand in 2018 and is performing impressively. In figures, that means 106% growth with the Cupra brand last year compared to the previous year. As you can see, it's not just about nuances, it's about big steps. And this year we have already added another 60% on top of these figures. This impressive growth in Germany is made possible by emotional and powerful cars that are not available as Seat. In addition to exciting vehicles, the management also focuses on motorsport and sponsorship. With the Abt racing team and a top-class lineup including the 2 Dakar winners Jutta Kleinschmidt and Nasser Al-Attiyah, they started in the Extreme E cross-country racing series. And musician and actor Tom Beck has been associated with Seat and now the Cupra brand for over 10 years. The compact CUV Formentor is the first independent model of the Spanish sports brand. The all-electric Born is technically based on the VW ID.3 and is Cupra's answer to the all-electric compact class. But aren't combustion engine SUVs and efficient electric cars a contradiction in terms these days? Best of both worlds. That means that today the question is no longer, do I drive electrically or do I drive power and have a lot of horsepower under the bonnet? Both are possible and both work well. Yes, we also have the 450 horsepower version of the VZ5 here with 390 horsepower as standard, now also with 450. Yes, that naturally arouses passions, that appeals to people who have fun with it. The VZ5 is the limited edition, most powerful version of the Formentor. VZ stands for veloz and means fast. The 5 refers to the legendary 5-cylinder Audi power unit. Even the standard version of the VZ5 with 390 horsepower and all-wheel drive offers driving pleasure in abundance. Would you like a little more? For an extra €4,490, the VZ5 is available with Abt grade from the Allgäu tuner. Power Plus, 60 horsepower. This makes 450 horses available. Thanks to the additional power, the car reaches 100 kilometers an hour in 3.9 seconds, 3/10 faster than the VZ5 without Abt grade. The top speed can also be raised from 250 to 270 kilometers per hour. But the performance also has its price. The very well equipped test car comes to around €68,000 in Germany. The Born is much cheaper and produces no exhaust fumes. The basic version of the all-electric compact car is available from €37,200. You can choose between a 58 or 77 kilowatt-hour battery. 204 horsepower pushes the car to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.3 seconds. The range is specified at 424 kilometers according to the WLTP standard. A realistic range is probably 300 to 350 kilometers, depending on the outside temperature. The desert of Saudi Arabia. This is where Cupra starts in the first race of the Extreme E with Abt Racing. The cockpit is prominently occupied by 2 Dakar winners.
Of course, the Extreme E is a completely different format compared to the Dakar Rally. Everything is super short. You have to be super fast, very exact, and not make any mistakes at all.
Unlike the Dakar, the stages are only 6 to 10 kilometers long.
With such a long distance, when you have 500 kilometers to go, it's not so bad if you make a small mistake. You can make up for it. Unfortunately, we only had one test lap, which didn't play into our cards, and then Nasser unfortunately drove past the finish. In the first qualifying and in the second, he had a small crash with Carlos. We were penalized for that, and unfortunately, that threw us to the back of the field. So the first race was not as successful as we had hoped, but we were fast. That is important. We had the performance and the season has just started. So we are also going into the next race with a lot of optimism.
The Electric Rallycross Series stands for equality with mixed teams. It also wants to draw attention to the consequences of climate change and therefore starts in places where the effects are particularly visible.
I am sure we can be in the podium. See you in Sardinia.
To make the Cupra brand successful, musician and actor Tom Beck is on the road as a brand ambassador. In the action series Alarm for Cobra 11, he could be seen in wild chases and spectacular crashes. That was almost 10 years ago. Nevertheless, I'm still often associated with it because it's also constantly repeated, and that's also really fine. But of course, people think I'm the #1 car freak. Tom likes to step on the gas, and this is the proof. The star had a lot of fun during these filming sessions. With the four-wheel drive Cupra Formentor VZ5, he drifts through the snow-covered Swiss Alps with 390 horsepower. And the multi-talent also cuts a fine figure on skis. But of course, I did drifting stories like that quite often during my time with Cobra 11. Well, maybe not necessarily on the snow, but we had to practice that kind of thing, because we often drove it ourselves. But yes, once you have the opportunity to be let loose on such a large playing field, then of course you like to take it on. It was fun. The musician is no stranger to driving, but what does he think about e-mobility? If it's possible and the infrastructure improves, I think it makes sense to gradually switch to e-mobility, because it's simply much less of a burden on the environment. And where you can do something, I think you should do it. I think the cars are fun to drive. At the beginning, people said I had to feel the V8 and all that. But you sit down in a car like this and have such a pull on the first few meters. Both have their pros and cons, but the pros of e-mobility outweigh the cons for me. Everyone has to decide for themselves which is the right form of propulsion for them. Whether electric or internal combustion, they are both fun in their own way. In order to become known and successful with the new brand, Cupra relies on well-known stars as well as sustainable electric racing, and of course on emotional cars that are particularly sporty or sustainable.